Welcome to Lifestyle Seduction. I'm Josh Barr, and in this video, I want to talk about how the power of observation made me a better player. Now, before I get into my story and how it made me better, the very first recommendation I give to any guy who wants to become good at seduction and be good with women is to get out the house, man. Like, too many guys, obviously you see I have a stack of books and I have learned from reading a lot of books. But too many guys just get stuck in reading books or watching hours of YouTube videos or Facebook groups and forums crying and whining. And the knowledge is good, but ultimately you got to get a feel for your local environment, because as you study seduction, you're going to realize that environment is a big key in your logistics and seduction. And as you watch my videos, I'm going to keep bringing up The Art of War and Sun Tzu, know yourself, know the enemy, know the environment. And yes, there are a lot of videos with guys pulling in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, New York, which is cool if you live there. But again, the game is played on the field. And if you don't live there, you got to adjust your game to your local environment. Now, I'll start off my story with when I was a little kid in elementary school, and then I'll fast forward into the future, how it made me better with women. So the power of observation, I was thinking about it, and the story starts where I'm in, I think it was like fifth grade. Yes, I was in fifth grade. I was in elementary school, and there was two classes. There were the GT kids, were like, they called it gifted and talented, and then the other kids, so like the GT kids were like pretty much like the nerdier kids, and the other kids were like more, I guess, the more athletic kids. But the GT kids were the way they taught us was a little bit different. So we were like on the nerdy side of the class, right? But so there was these two classrooms, and in PE we would face off against each other. And so when we would play kickball towards the end of the year, it was just kids playing like kickball and basketball, dodgeball, whatever games. But after a while, like, we would always lose. And I started getting like frustrated, like, why are we always losing? So when it came to kickball, the other classroom had this guy named Jack and this guy named Trey. And Jack and Trey would always hit the ball towards the fence. Like, these guys were always getting home runs or at least to third base. And in my classroom, like, none of the kids could like hit the ball like that hard. Even I couldn't. I'll kick the ball as hard as I could, and I could barely get over like second base. It was always like some kind of pop fly. And I was sitting there, like, when we were playing defense, I was watching them. I was watching Jack and Trey, and I was like, man, like, how did these guys always hit the ball like towards the fence? Like, these guys are always just like knocking it out, man. Like, and as an elementary school, like, for the most part, like, yeah, like, some kids grow more than others due to hormones and their genetics. But in elementary school, like, kids are pretty much the same. Like, yeah, once you get to like 8th grade, 9th grade, and you see like the growth spurts, like, yeah, there's more range. But for the most part, like, in elementary school, like, all the kids are like kids, like, they're pretty like even. But I was watching and I was like, how are these guys just like hitting it towards the fence every single time? And I would kick the ball as hard as I could, and I could barely get it over like second base. So I was on defense and I was watching them, and Jack was up to the plate and I was watching them, and the coach, he rolls the ball, and Jack, he takes like 3-4 steps. He runs out the batter's box, runs towards the ball 3-4 steps, and like kicks the ball as hard as he can and runs towards the fence. And I'm like, my first reaction was like, yo, this guy's fucking cheating, man. Like, what the fuck? Like, no wonder this guy could hit the ball towards the fence. Like, he's cheating. So my first reaction was like, I was mad at the coach for not enforcing the rules. But then immediately after that, I realized like, wait, that's the source of his power, because he's running 3-4 steps and he's hitting the ball with momentum versus just being stationary and hitting the ball. So then I realized, like, wait, that's the secret to his power. So anyways, he does a home run, or he goes to at least third, and then Trey comes up, and I'm watching Trey, and sure enough, Trey takes 3-4 steps, and he kicks the shit out the ball, goes towards the fence or whatever, third base, he does a home run, whatever. And I realized, all right, so he's doing the same thing too. And then we finally take the other kids out, and then it's our turn to bat. So we're there, and then it's my turn to bat, and I was in the batter's box. And this whole time I was like following the rules, and this is what I say, you gotta think outside the box. And I was like, all right, well, you know, if Jack and Trey are gonna run outside the box, I'm gonna do it too. But I remember like I was kind of like hesitant, like, you know, these are the rules, and you're not supposed to run outside the batter's box. But then I was just like so angry and frustrated of fucking losing every time. And if the coach is not gonna tell him anything, he's not gonna tell me anything either. So I step up to the box, up to the plate, and like, you know, everybody like comes in, and oh, it's Josh, he's gonna kick the ball and he's gonna do another pop fly. And I'm like, and so the coach pitches, and out of anger, I take like 4 or 5 steps, and I kick the shit out of the fucking ball, and it goes all the way to the fence, and everybody's like, oh, everybody's just like looking at the ball, like no one expected me to do that. And like I do like a home run, and I was, yeah, I feel good about myself, and like my team was like, oh yeah, you know, a good run. And I remember like everybody thought it was like a fluke, like that it was like that one good kick. But after that, like I started like doing that shit, you know, running towards the ball and hitting it with momentum, and people, they started backing up, and they started respecting like my kicks. So I was, all right, cool. Like I observed that. We would also play football, and the way the classroom was set up was like, it was, you know, the girls, it wasn't boys and girls, no, it was like just this class was this class, and like the girls, there were some girls here and some girls there, like it was a mixed football game. But it was pretty much like the coach being quarterback and like just passing it to the kids, right? So when it came to football, we would always lose too. And then I realized, like, man, like I started thinking about it too. Like I figured out what would Jackson Trey's like secret in kickball. And I was trying to figure out, like, man, why are these guys so good at football? So I started watching them, like, man, what are these guys doing that they're so good? I mean, we would never win in football either. So I started using my mind, like, okay. And when I would watch them, what they did was Jack would get on one side and Trey would get on the other side. And when the coach would say hut, they would just do Hail Marys. That's all they were doing, just Hail Marys, Hail Marys, Hail Marys. And I mean, it wasn't a serious game. It was just a kid's game. It was just to like get out and do PE. But if you don't respect, if you're not attached to them, if you're not in their shirt and the coach gives them the bomb and the Hail Mary and they catch it, it's all like Chris Carter touchdowns. It's just all end zone. And when my team was on offense, like, you know, like the girls would just kind of run 4 or 5 yards and they'll just like stand there. And then the other guys, they'll do like a little curl route or a little L route, a little slant. And, you know, even if they caught the ball, like it was only like a 5-yard gain. But these guys were like, you know, they're always like going for the Hail Mary. So then I started going for Hail Marys. So I started going for Hail Marys, and then like the coach was like, oh, this guy's going for it. And he would just, you know, start throwing me Hail Marys. And then I started like getting a deep ball, and then like after a couple touchdowns, they had to like double team me because but at the same time, like I wasn't like the super athlete. I wasn't. It's just that I was the only one going for the end zone. I was the only one scoring, so it's like, hey, let's double this guy. But anyway, that's a different story. But I was starting to score, and the game started to become more competitive because I observed and realized what these guys were doing to win, what these guys were doing to score. So fast forward to like, you know, I'm 19 years old, 20 years old, and I'm trying to get women. So yeah, I didn't have game, and look, I had the luck of I had the benefit of being roommates with a natural, and I would see him pull all the time. But I was learning the game, and I got into POA and all that stuff. But basically, we would go to the clubs, and it was frustrating. I was just trying to like learn like how are these guys like so good, like, and that's the fallacy. They're like, oh yeah, you're just a natural. Some guys get all the girls, some guys don't. I mean, but I was trying to learn this. And what I started doing was I just started observing the women and the guys, and the big thing I would observe is there's groups of women that come in, a set of 3 or 4, and then there's a group of guys that come, just 2 guys or 4 guys, and I would see how these groups are like complete strangers. They'll be like on this side of the club and on this table, but by midnight or 1 o'clock, 1:30, like they would mingle, they would talk, they'll laugh, whatever. And I would see them like getting numbers, and I would see them like going home together, walking towards the car together. So obviously, like these people were hooking up like complete strangers. Like it's possible. And then my roommate was like taking women back. So like yeah, like it was possible. SNLs are possible. Same night lays are possible. I mean, every night someone's fucking. Like it's possible to meet a complete stranger and take them home the same night. Now, how does that happen, right? Now, I started observing like the way the women dressed and how the guys dressed in terms of style, what they would do, blah blah. And I'll get into that in other videos. But I will say this: that when I first started learning game, like I was into POA and mystery method and all that, so I would do these lines or whatever, but I was just like spam approaching, and in the POA community is like, 3-second rule, 3-second rule. So I was like spam approaching, and like any woman like I thought like was attractive, and like just doing these stupid lines or whatever. All right, so here's the mystery method and the game. So I was just like spam approaching, but through the power of observation and like listening to other people. Player Supreme was a big influence on me. I started like profiling women, and I could see like who was down and who was not, who was out to like have fun and look for someone, who actually had a boyfriend, who didn't have a boyfriend, like who was really available. And body language is huge, and I was starting to catch the signals and read the signals, but it was through observation and being in the field and in the environment, not just reading books. And that's one thing with the POA community where like they're so concerned, what do I say, bro? And it's like, man, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And arguably anywhere from like 75% or even 100% at times of all communication is body language. And you have to like observe. There's only so much you can get out of a book, but this book right here, Undercover Sex Signals by Leah Lones, like there's a lot of pictures. Like this book really helped me a lot in terms of like observing and profiling. And like, yeah, there's some pictures in the book, but it just planted that seed in my head to like be more observant and catch what women are really saying. And even though the body language wasn't exactly like the picture, I was just starting to pay attention more. So from there, I was able to profile women to see who's down, who's not, who's out to have fun. And instead of spam approaching, I became more effective and efficient talking to women that were already attracted to me or were showing positive signs. But that's the big thing though, like you have to get out the house and you have to observe. But even the guys that were good, like my roommate was good. And there was like these club heads. When you go out all the time, you're gonna see like actual natural looking players, and you're gonna see guys that they seem to be pretty good at getting numbers. They seem to be every other week they have a different woman on them, and you can get a sense of style. So wrapping up the video, but like even when you go to like different like environments, you're gonna see like different styles of how people dress or how the women dress, and there's a different vibe. I mean, every club has a different vibe, but observing who's having success in those areas when you don't have an identity can help you realize, hey, this is how you score in this particular environment. This is how the women in this environment react positively to these guys. So yeah, guys are scoring. Other guys are scoring, and you got to figure out what is it that they're doing in that particular environment to score. So that's one of the first things I recommend guys to do is to get out the house and stop the analysis paralysis. So like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, and get out the fucking house, man.